We've talked about the president earlier. We know that the president is the highest constitutional post in the country. In this video, we'll be talking about the election of the president. Now, the president is not directly elected like the members of the Lok Sabha. So, for the members of the Lok Sabha, all the citizens of the country who are above 18 years of age vote. But for the president, all the citizens of the country do not vote. So, the president is indirectly elected by an electoral college by the system of proportional representation through single transferable vote. Now, this seems like too much, isn't it? So, we'll break each of these terms and understand them. So, firstly, we told that the election is an indirect election. That is not a direct one. So, the citizens of the country do not directly vote for the president. Now, how is this indirect? The president is elected by an electoral college. So, an electoral college is a body of electors. The presidential electoral college consists of two groups of people. Firstly, the elected members of the parliament and the elected members of the legislative assemblies. So, what we have to note here is that it is only the elected members of the parliament and the legislative assemblies who form the electoral college. So, the members of the parliament represent the center, that is the central government. They consist of the elected members of the Lok Sabha and the elected members of the Rajya Sabha. Now, we know that all the members in the Lok Sabha are elected members and there are no nominated members. So, all the members of the Lok Sabha who are elected members help in the election of the president. But for the Rajya Sabha, there are 12 members who are nominated by the president to the Rajya Sabha. So, these nominated members do not vote in this election. It is only the elected members of the Rajya Sabha. Other than this, the elected members of legislative assemblies, that is the ones who represent the state governments, they form the state legislatures. So, all of these people together form the electoral college which elects the president of the country. Now, let's see if you can answer this question. The electoral college for the presidential election comprises all members of the state legislative assemblies or all members of the parliament or elected members of the parliament and the elected members of the state legislative assemblies or all members of the parliament and all members of the state legislative assemblies. The correct answer is the elected members of the parliament and the elected members of the state legislative assemblies. Now, you must have seen your parents or your other elders go out and vote in the general elections. These elections are held every 5 years for choosing the members of the Lok Sabha. And the party which gets the majority in this selects their leader as the Prime Minister of the country. So, in these votes, one person is entitled to one vote only. That means that the value of vote of this person is 1. This is because this one person is representing his own ideas and his own opinions when he votes for the candidate. But that is not what happens in the presidential elections. Because in the presidential elections, it is not the normal citizens who vote, but the members of parliament and the members of the legislative assemblies. These people, when they vote, are not voting for themselves. They are not representing their own opinions, but the opinions of all the people that they represent. So, the value of votes of these MPs and MLAs is not one, but differ from state to state. For example, this is the demographical map of India. Here, the populations of different states are marked in different colors. This shows that the population of all the states are not the same. The population is different in different states. So all of these MLAs and MPs represent different number of people. and their value of vote depends on the number of people they represent. That is why this is known as proportional representation, because the value of vote of these MPs and MLAs are calculated in proportion to the number of people each of these MLAs represent. Let us see how. So first we'll be discussing about how the value of votes of the MLAs, that is the members of legislative assemblies, are calculated. Technically, to calculate the exact number of people an MLA represents, we have to see how many people there are in each constituency. But that is a very difficult calculation. So we calculate the number of people there are in a state and see how many people each MLA represents. So the value of the vote of each member of the state legislative assembly varies from state to state. So as we saw, the population of all the states of India are very different. And so the number of people an MLA represents also differs from state to state. So the value of each MLA's vote is directly proportional to the number of citizens he represents. So if he represents a bigger number of people, his value of vote is also higher, since his opinion is the opinion of a lot more people. That is why higher population means higher value of the MLA vote. Now let us understand this through an example. But before that calculation, we have to remember that as per the 84th Amendment Act, it is the 1971 census which is used, and it will continue to be used until the year 2026. So in this calculation, we will be using the values from the 1971 census. For example, as of 2021, the population of Delhi is around 3 crores. But in the 1971 census, the population of Delhi was 40,65,698. So we will be using this value. So this is the population of Delhi. Now the total number of MLAs in Delhi is 70. So the population of Delhi is this, and the number of MLAs in Delhi is this. Now to calculate how many people one MLA of Delhi represents, we have to divide the population of Delhi by the number of MLAs there are. So 40,65,698 divided by 70. So we get 58,081 people. Now similarly, if we make the calculation for a different state, we see that the total population of Kerala is this. And the total number of MLAs in Kerala is 140. So in a similar fashion, we calculate how many citizens each MLA in Kerala represents by dividing the population of Kerala with the number of MLAs in Kerala. So we get 1,52,481 people. So this is the number of people one MLA of Kerala represents. Now we had said that it is proportional representation, which means that the value of vote is in proportion to the number of people a MLA represents. So we don't have to take the entire number of people the MLA represents. So we see that each MLA of Delhi represents 58,081 people. Now for simplification of the calculation, we will divide this number with 1000. So around 58,000 people divided by 1000. So we get 58, which means that the total number of votes of each MLA of Delhi is 58. So the value of vote of one MLA of Delhi is 58. Now as you can see, we've taken an approximate figure when we had taken 58,000. Similarly, for this value, we will take an approximate of 1,52,000, and dividing that with 1000, we get 152, which means that the value of vote of one MLA of Kerala is 152. Now what we had done, we have a formula for that as well. So if we put it in a formula, we get the value of vote of each MLA is equal to the total population of the state divided by the total number of MLAs in the state into 1000. So this is the formula by which we calculate the value of vote of a MLA of a state. Now we see that the number of MLAs in Delhi was 70 and the total number of votes of each MLA of Delhi is 58. So what is the total value of votes of all MLAs of Delhi? So to calculate the total value of votes of all the MLAs of Delhi, we will multiply the total number of MLAs in Delhi with the value of vote of one MLA of Delhi. So we get 58 into 70 is equal to 4060. So the total value of votes of all Delhi MLAs is 4060. Similarly, we multiply the total number of MLAs in Kerala with the value of vote of each MLA of Kerala to get the total value of all the MLA votes in Kerala. So we get 21,280. So that is the total value of votes of all MLAs of Kerala. Now we've said that there is a proportional representation. So let us check if it is true, if in reality the proportion is maintained or not. So as you can see, the total population of Kerala is 2 crores 13 lakhs 47,375, while that of Delhi is 40 lakhs 65,698. Now if you divide the population of Kerala with the population of Delhi, we get 5.25. Similarly, we see that the total value of votes of Kerala MLAs is 21,280 and the total value of votes of all Delhi MLAs is 4,060. Now again, if we divide these two, we get 5.24. So we see that this value and this value is almost equal, which means that the population of Kerala is approximately 5 times that of the population of Delhi. Similarly, the total value of votes of all Kerala MLAs is also approximately 5 times that of Delhi, which means that these are in proportion. So as we've seen that the total value of all MLA votes in Kerala is this and that of Delhi is this. Similarly, if we calculate the total value of votes of MLAs across all the states of India, we find that the total value of the MLA votes across the country is 5,49,495. But of course, you don't have to remember any of these calculations. This is just for your understanding. Now in India, we have a federal setup. So there are 2 sets of government, one at the union and one at the center. The MPs, that is the members of parliament, represent the union, while the members of the legislative assemblies represent the states. Now in a federal setup, we have to make sure that neither the states nor the center gets a chance to overpower each other. For that, the combined value of all the MPs' votes will be approximately equal to the combined value of the votes of the MLAs. So we had previously calculated the total value of the votes of all MLAs across the country, and we had found out that it is 5,49,495. Now as per the formula, we will calculate the value of vote of one MP. So to calculate the value of a MP vote, we will divide the total value of MLA votes of all states and divide it with the total number of elected members of parliament. So this is the number of total value of votes of all MLAs across all the states of the country. And there are 543 elected members of parliament in the Lok Sabha and 233 elected members in the Rajya Sabha. And when we add up these two numbers, we get 776. Now when we divide 5,49,495 with 776, we get 708.11, which is approximately equal to 708, which means that one MP or one member of parliament is entitled to a value of vote which is 708. Now in India, we have 4,120 elected members of the legislative assemblies and 776 elected members of the parliament. So the total number of electors or the total number of voters who will elect the president is 4,896. And the combined value of votes of all the members of legislative assemblies is 5,49,495. And the total value of votes of all MPs is 5,49,408. So the combined value of votes of all the electors in the presidential election is 10,98,903. That was exhausting, wasn't it? Now that we've understood the system of proportional representation and why it is called so, let us move forward. So the voting is done through the secret ballot system according to the system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Now we've understood what proportional representation means. We are left to understand what a ballot system is and what a single transferable vote is. So in a ballot system, what happens is that the electors are given a sheet of paper which is known as the ballot paper. And in this sheet, the names of all the candidates who are standing for the position are already listed. The electors have to mark their preferences in numerals in those sheets. So the candidates are listed and the elector gives them number according to his preference. Now as we will move forward, you will understand why it is called a single transferable vote. So for now we have to know that for one candidate to be elected as the president, he has to get the electoral quota, or he has to fulfill the electoral quota. What is the electoral quota? It is the number of valid votes divided by 2 plus 1. So it is the majority of the votes that have been cast. The number of valid votes divided by 2 give us half the number of votes that have been cast. And this plus 1 signifies that the candidate who has got this electoral quota has got the majority of the votes. Now let us understand this through an animation. So in the presidential election, imagine that there are 3 candidates, Anup, Raj and Shweta. And in this election, we have 1,000 voters. So these 1,000 voters will form the electoral college. But for now, we'll imagine that all of these voters have the same value of vote. Otherwise, it will become too difficult for us to understand. Now, this is what a ballot sheet looks like. In this ballot sheet, the names of the 3 candidates who are standing for the position of president has been already printed. Now, all the voters or electors will have to mark their preferences. So, first preference goes to Anup, second to Raj, third to Shweta. For this person, the first preference is Raj, the second preference is Shweta, third preference is Anup, and so on. Now, all of these ballot sheets are then dropped into the ballot box. After this has been given in the ballot box, these sheets will be taken out and counted. For this election, let us calculate what the electoral quota will be. Now we had said that the total number of valid votes divided by 2 plus 1 would give us the electoral quota. So we have 1,000 voters. That divided by 2 gives us 500. And when we add this 1, we get 501 votes. So any candidate who is able to secure or fulfill 501 votes becomes the president. So first we will be calculating the first preference votes. First preference votes means those candidates who have been ranked 1. So Anup has been ranked 1 by 250 electors. Raj has been ranked 1 by 350 electors and Shweta by 400 electors. Now as we can see that none of them have fulfilled the electoral quota. So the person who has got the least number of votes, Anup, will be getting eliminated. So Anup here is the eliminated candidate. All those who had ranked the eliminated candidate, that is Anup, as 1, we will be calculating their second preferences. So as we can see in this ballot sheet, Raj has been given the second preference, while in this sheet, Shweta has been given the second preference. So when we look at all of these ballot sheets who have marked Anup as 1, we will see who they have marked as their second preference and count them. Now here we see that Anup was the eliminated candidate. He had 250 votes. But out of these 250 votes, 200 people have ranked Raj as number 2. So these 200 votes go to Raj and 50 go to Shweta. So Raj gets 550 and Shweta gets 450. Now Raj has fulfilled the electoral quota while Shweta has not. So Raj will become the president and Shweta will be eliminated. Now after all of these calculations and understanding, you must be thinking, why does the presidential election have to be an indirect one? Why can't we just directly elect the president? Well, there are certain reasons why the presidential election has been made an indirect one in India. The first one is that the president mostly has ceremonial powers, while the prime minister and his council of ministers have the real power. Now we know that in India, we have a real head, which is the prime minister, and a ceremonial head, which is the president. So the president has been given mostly ceremonial or nominal powers, while the real powers lie with the prime minister and his council of ministers. So it would be a little odd if the president was chosen by all the citizens of the country and still not given much decision-making power. Secondly, India is a huge country and there's a huge population. So arranging for a direct election would mean a lot of time, a lot of money and a lot of manpower would have to be invested. There has to be polling booths set up across the country, advertisements have to be made, and there are a lot of responsibilities attached with holding a direct election. So a lot of time, money and manpower needs to be invested in arranging a direct election. The makers of the constitution wanted the presidential election to be a quiet and dignified affair. That is why they made it an indirect one. And thirdly, the president is elected by an electoral college that consists of the members of parliament and the members of state legislative assemblies. Now, since the members of state legislative assemblies as well as the members of the Lok Sabha are directly elected by the people of the country, the president becomes a true representative of the country. So the president is also elected by our elected representatives. So that is why the presidential election has been kept as an indirect one. Now, as we've understood from all of that we've studied, that in the general elections, one person or one citizen is entitled to one single vote because he represents his own opinion. But in the presidential election, the MLAs and MPs do not represent their own opinion but the opinions of the people who they represent. So they are entitled to not one but a different value of votes. So for calculating the value of vote of a MLA, we divide the total population of the state with the number of MLAs and divide the entire thing with 1000. Similarly, for calculating the value of vote of a MP, we divide the total number of votes assigned to all of the MLAs of the country and divide it with the total number of MPs. That is how we derive the total value of votes of one MLA or one MP. The MLAs and MPs together form the Electoral College that elects the President. So the President is an important part of the country and it requires a responsible group of people to elect the President, who would therefore be able to efficiently carry out all of the functions that the Constitution gives him. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million+ questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.